Is there a super secret tech card that makes it so you can never lose to aggro in Standard? That's what we're going to find out today. What you're looking at right now is the best of one Standard meta according to Untapped.gg, and if you look at these decks, you'll notice two really important things. So first, you'll see that red aggro, by far the most popular archetype in the format. Rakdos and mono red, super similar, together like 27% of the meta. Plus you get decks like lizards and mice that are also red-based aggro. But if you really dig into these decks, you'll see that almost every single one of the most played decks is a hardcore aggro deck. Rakdos, mono red, rabbits, mono black, bats, lizards. If you add these numbers together, you'll see that aggro is more than 50% of the best of one Standard meta. So our plan today is simple. We're breaking out a super secret tech card that I'm pretty sure no one even remembers exists in Standard, and we're trying to build a deck that never loses to aggro. And the theory is this. Let's say we could build a deck that wins 0% of the time against control, like 30 or 40% of the time against mid-range, but 100% of the time against aggro. We should have a busted deck, right? Because so much of the meta is aggro. So let's talk about our super secret never lose to aggro tech deck. Jump into some games and see if this ridiculous plan can even work. So here is our deck. How do you build a deck that hopefully never loses to aggro? Well, first, we get a bunch of cheap, mostly exile-based removal and temporary lockdown. Our creatures are all incredibly annoying for aggro to deal with. Metropolis Reformer makes it so you can't target us with burn spells or discard or whatever. Plus, if it takes damage, we gain a bunch of life. Biza, if we fall behind, gains us life, makes fishes. Phyrexian Vindicator, almost impossible for red decks to deal with. All the damage it takes is prevented, and we get to throw that damage at something else. Plus, it's a 5/5 flyer, so unless you have like black removal or whatever, it's just impossible to get off the battlefield. Treasure Map to find our pieces, and then we have the reason we're playing this deck, our super secret tech card that I think everyone forgot existed in Standard, in Eerie Interference. So Eerie Interference, a 3-mana instant from Wild's Eldraine. It says prevent all damage that would be dealt to you and creatures you control this turn by creatures. So yes, on level 1, it's a fog. Our opponent builds our big board of rabbits or red creatures. They attack us. We cast this. We fizzle all the damage. We essentially almost time walk our opponent for 3 mana. But it's actually even better than that because it says not prevent all combat damage, but prevent all damage by creatures. And if you think about how the red decks tend to win, one of their most explosive kills is building a big Cacophony Scamp or Heart for a Hero, and then using Callous Sellsword to make it deal a ton of damage equal to its power, then sacrifice it. That is actually damage that's being dealt by the creature. If you read how Callous Sellsword and the creatures are worded, it's actually damage from a creature. So not only is this a fog to deal with combat damage and our opponent's attackers, but it fizzles the combo kill too. So in theory, Eerie Interference hopefully makes it so we just never lose to aggro. We fog them, and that buys us time to get down our Bizas and our Vindicators and just shut down the game. Mana base, 24 planes, and that's our deck. So is Eerie Interference the secret to building a deck that never loses to aggro? Let's jump into some games and find out. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll be back in a bit for the wrap up. Need some magic cards? Well, you can snag them from our sponsor, Card Kingdom, over at cardkingdom.com/mtggoldfish. We are fog and aggro players with our super, there's our Eerie Interference, with our super secret tech to hopefully never lose to aggro. That is the goal. Yes, okay, that's what we want to see. Mountain is good. We will take turn 1 Mountain every single match, please. I mean, this hand seems pretty good. I don't know how a red deck's gonna beat us. We'll see what our opponent has in mind. Opponent, Mountain and Emberheart Challenger, sure. Gets and hits us down to 18. Well, play the land, and we will just lay down arms. The Challenger. See what our opponent does here. We might be able to get down Treasure Map next turn, perhaps. Or we can play the Metropolis Regent, or leave up a Fog if we have to. Opponent, Manifold Mouse. Would have been scary if that Challenger was still around. A little bit less scary as it is. Let's play the land, and yeah, let's just play the Metropolis Reformer. Also, I mean, like, every card in our deck, outside of maybe Treasure Map, but like every card in our deck is good against that. I was gonna say it's good against aggro, but I can't just say that because it's always good against your opponent. Lightning strikes, we get to gain 3, sure. I mean, I have died to Manifold Mouse before. Our opponent, 4 cards, 1 mana. They're not going to be able to pump spells to death here. What's the worst case? Monstrous Rage, and we take 8? That's a lot. But then we can Biza or, well, okay, well, Monstrous Rage. We take 8. Oh, now we gotta decide. We'll see what we draw. We got a Biza or Fog. We might just need a Fog. We kinda, another Plains. Yeah, let's pass. I mean, hopefully our opponent just casts a bunch of pump spells and then learns a brutal lesson about how there actually is a Fog in this format. About it. Lightning strikes their face. All right, we can't Fog that, sadly. Wouldn't mind drawing a removal. Do we have to Fog this? We really just want to draw a removal spell for this Manifold Mouse. Passes, okay. Ooh, Vindicator. Vindicators too. Well, let's finally play our treasure map. I mean, I think we're definitely fogging this turn. So we can fog this turn. We can upkeep Scry to find a removal spell. Worst case, we can play Vindicator or Biza, which should be enough to make us not die to this Manifold Mouse. About it. You gonna pump it? Sure. I mean, technically that does make it lethal. Man, we can't lose to aggro. We can't. If we lose to aggro, this is all for nothing. Opponent, combat, gets it, hits us. Well, Eerie Interference. About it. Did you know there was a fog in standard? I don't think anyone knows there's a fog in standard. Eerie Interference, like, so it's a little expensive, right? 3 mana is about 2 more than you really want for a fog. At least 1 more for a modern fog. However, preventing all damage from creatures is kind of hilarious because it shuts down Calistel Sword. It shuts down the Fling Kill too because that also is damage from creatures. All right, let's try for a removal spell. Anything that kills him, Get Lost works. Get Lost works. Awkwardly, man, I really want to play the Vindicator, but it's so like if they go pump spell, they could, because of trample, they could win through the Vindicator. It is possible. I think we risk it. Like if our opponent, if they can kill us from 6 through the Vindicator. The other thing is, if they give double strike, it's actually kind of hilarious. If they give double strike, that means they'll deal first strike damage to the Vindicator, and then we can throw the Vindicator damage at the Manifold Mouse before before the normal combat damage. So I think it's relatively safe here. Pound it, pumps it, pumps. And, oh god, opponent. No, that's not gonna do what you want. Okay. So opponent hits our Vindicator with a shock. We will throw the damage at the Manifold Mouse. Opponent reads, they should have read Vindicator first. I imagine, well, we'll see. Opponent, Manifold Mouse. They're not gonna attack you, right? That's like, were they trying to like mark damage? I don't know what our opponent was thinking was gonna happen there. Double pump the mouse, shock the Vindicator, pass. That might be the worst turn of Magic I've ever seen. Ooh, well, that's another fog. That's another fog. And I've had some bad turns. I mean, we got the fog. We do need to kill our opponent eventually. Like, a way we could theoretically lose is our opponent drawing a bunch of lightning strikes, which means at some point we're gonna have to play this Biza. Next turn we can flip the treasure map and then we'll have a lot of mana. So we might just do that. Opponent. Oh, are you gonna get us, opponent? Are you gonna get us? We attacked with the Vindicator. The coast is clear. It is time for the mice to rise. Opponent pumps, plays a land. And double strikes. And let's just get lost. All that work for nothing. And opponent passes. Well, let's flip this treasure map. We will keep another fog. I mean, 3 fogs and a Vindicator probably just wins by itself. I think that we do probably play Biza just to... Wow, our opponent's kind of flooded out, haven't they? Opponent's got 7 lands. Yeah, that's also not ideal. That has helped. Although with all these fogs, I don't think it would have mattered. Let's get down Biza just to get outside of double lightning strike range. That's the one way I could see this still going wrong. Like, if our opponent just goes double lightning strike, they could still get us. Wow, land number 8. Well, as long as our mono red opponent draws 8 lands, our deck is undefeatable. Let's sack a treasure, draw a card. It's a Plains. Well, play the Plains. Yeah, I think we did it. I mean, that's what's supposed to happen against aggro. 4 mono red players We have the secret fog tech and so many cards that they just can't beat. It reminds me, there's this infamous deck from a long time ago called the Solution. And there was this format where Flame Tongue Kavu was like in every deck, and every deck was playing red. So the Solution was one of the jankiest looking decks of all time. It was just all these horrible pro red creatures. It was like 2001, 2002, sometime around that era. It was Manifold Mouse with a baby. It was, oh, they can actually, wow, double haste? I mean, I guess it probably doesn't matter because we have Metropolis Regent, but we also have a Fog, so this definitely doesn't matter. But the deck actually won a Pro Tour, the Solution, which is just like the most techie, janky, metagame looking deck I've ever seen. Actually did its thing. About it. Were you thinking of damaging us with those mice? I have bad news. Bona draws a card. I mean, this one looks over to me. Bona plays a land, and to their credit, they are sticking it out. Emberheart Challenger, gonna keep it. Okay, I don't know how that wins you the game, but I mean, I don't know how our opponent does not just die here, right? To this Vindicator. Manifold Mouse, but opponent, yeah, gonna do some pumping, sure. Eerie Interference does not care about it. Passes. Well, we will untap and go to combat and smack you with the flyers, and that is the power of Fogs. If we could just keep playing red, if we could just playing mono red, we broke it. If we're running to control, though, we perhaps did not break it. Yes, that was the most fun I've had playing against mono red ever, I think. We are teaching standard players, arena best of one standard players, that there's a fog in standard. We have our, ooh, yes, show us the mice, show us the red. We're gonna kill this Heartfire hero. 2 fogs in hand is pretty sweet. I'd like to get down this treasure map to do some scrying about it. Heartfire hero number 2. And a stamp. I think we just pass. It's kind of not impossible that we die this turn if we tap out for treasure map or tap down for treasure map. In theory, our opponent could just make us die with pump spells and flanks, opponent combat attacks. Come on, empty that hand. Empty that hand. Might of the Meek. Well, all right. In that case, fogs are kind of like wraths, right? The best fog is the one that is left in your hand when you win the game. That's how you know. That's how you know it's going well. I actually really like Not on My Watch. Like, this is one of those scenarios where you can kind of see the power of it, where I know there's Elspeth Smite, but Elspeth Smite against a deck like this, I found it just not to be guaranteed enough. All right, opponent's gonna Monstrous Rage the Scamp, because they can use their pump spells to grow outside of smite range. So, like, just so it's clear, the power of Eerie Interference is it stops the Scamp damage too. Any damage from creatures, not just combat damage, just any damage from creatures. It's so good. It's like so good against red decks. It's really good against aggro in general. Even just like buy a turn to make your opponent play more and set up your Wrath or whatever. I feel like this card, I feel like it's actually good. I feel like it's better than people think. Bona combat and let's just get rid of the Challenger. The Scamp can live for now. We don't want our opponent to start drawing cards with that in the future. Opponent does not sack. Well, that's upkeep scry. To the bottom. I don't really want to play the Reformer here because I'm afraid we're going to die if we don't leave up the fog. These red decks deal so much damage, and this is going to get even worse, I think, once we actually have Duskmourn out, because, all right, Heartfire hero again, because that Leyline seems so busted in this deck. Bona gives it. It's us. Are we pump smelling? Ooh, Felonious Rage. Whatever will we do? That's so much damage. How about an Eerie Interference? All right, we take 0. We will upkeep scry. Planes to the bottom and get lost. All right, well, pass the turn. Probably end up fogging here again. We'll see what our opponent does. Monastery Swift Spear. Let's just get lost the Scamp. Is there a way this goes wrong? Yeah, let's just take it. Down to 10. They can sack the Scamp if they want to deal 2 more. 10 is still relatively healthy. And we flip the treasure map, so next turn we'll have a bunch of mana. Does not sack. Well, all right. Upkeep scry. One more time. Flip the treasure map. planes to the bottom, get some treasures, and... All right, more get lost. We kind of want an actual sweeper at some point. A sweeper would be good. All right, black mana and slick shot show off. I think we need to do something here. The question is that something get losting? The problem is if we get lost, we do give our opponent maps that then they can sack to hit their lands. We can't just fog and draw a card and see if we can find a temporary lockdown. Yeah, let's do that. Let's Eerie Interference. Make sure nothing goes wrong. Take 0 and top deck temporary lockdown. Or Biza. Biza would also be very good. Either one of those. Vindicator also, probably enough. All right, Lay Down Arms is also fine. I guess just a million targeted removal spells can also deal with this. So Lay Down Arms, the Scamp. All right, play the land. I mean, this is still a little scary. In theory, the get lost should be enough, but this is a little... another Scam. Opponent has drawn a lot of creatures and not a lot of pump spells this game. Opponent combat end goes attacking. Do we have pump spells? No. All right, down to 7. Okay. Another plane's not great. Well, sack a treasure, draw a card. Ooh. All right, this is where the hopes and dreams. The fogs kept us alive long enough to find the lockdown. There goes everything. And now I'm feeling pretty good about where we're at. We did waste a treasure, but still, with 2 get lost in hand, even at 7, eventually we're gonna find a creature to attack with. How about a Vindicator? Or a Plains? Well, pass the turn. We have reached a stalemate. Slick shot show off. Well, if our opponent has a pump spell, you know what? I think we just kill it regardless. I don't think this build that our opponent's playing is going to have Lightning Strike, but it could. Well, you have some maps. Another Lay Down Arms. We're just drawing so much removal. We kind of need one more. I wanted to build straight up Turbo Fog. Oh god, more lands. I wanted to build straight up Turbo Fog, but there's just not enough fogs. There's one other, like... I think it's a 3-mana green fog, but it only prevents the damage of creatures power 3 or less, which just does not do it. All right, Metropolis Reformer. It's a threat. 13 turn clock. Reformer's actually pretty good against red. If it takes damage, we gain life, which is nice. All right, now our opponent is drawing all the lands that they didn't draw at the beginning of the game. What is their hand? A bunch of pump spells? They drew all the creatures and none of the pump spells, and now they're drawing all the pump spells and none of the creatures. Get in, itcha. The clock is on with the Reformer. About it. Oh, it hurts. It hurts. Running out the Carousel Sword feels so bad in this deck. That's how you know life is not what you want it to be. If our opponent goes to crack a map, we probably just kill it to fizzle the value. Actually, you know what? Sure. Hit your land drop. About it. Land. Ooh, slick shot. Okay, well, I'm glad we held on to the get lost, because we can just Lay Down Arms the Carousel Sword. Slick shot, though, not as easy, thanks to haste. Could still use, like, a Vindicator or something. Something that's a little faster of a clock. Like, I know we have a clock, technically, but Reformer's not the okay, more removal. All right, well, back up to a 13-turn clock here. We have undone all of our tagging. Here comes the Reformer, hit you down to 14. At what point does our opponent just give up? They gotta have a bunch of pump spells, right? They got to. What could their hand be other than a bunch of pump spells? Opponent combat, and are we attacking? Block, hopefully make our opponent use a pump spell or 2, and then kill it. About it. All right, Felonious Rage. Well, yeah, let's just snipe it real quick. Not on my watch. And about it. Scoops it up, and all right. 2-0. 2-0 against the aggro. Yes. We keep giving us mono red wizards. Keep doing it every time. Trying to never lose to aggro with our super secret fog tech, Eerie Interference. How many, I want you to answer honestly in the comments. Honestly, how many of you knew there was a fog in standard? Because I don't think most people know that Eerie Interference exists. Oh god, black. All right. Life has become bad. I'm glad we drew treasure map. So that is kind of the downside of our deck, right? So if we play against aggro, in theory, we never lose. That's the hope. And if you look at the best of 1 arena meta, It is incredibly aggro heavy. Like, we went over it in the deck tech, but it's like at least 50% of the meta, really more than that, I think, is aggro. So in theory, just beating aggro every time should give us a deck that has a winning record. The problem is, if we play against mid-range, things are sketchy. If we play against control, we are not gonna win. We're like almost 0% chance to win. The thing is, control's like what? 10% of the meta or something. So even if we lose 10% of the time guaranteed, if we're winning 50 or 60% of the time guaranteed, and then splitting the other 30%, that's a busted deck, right? Opponent, Fountain Port, gonna make a token. I don't even know exactly what we're looking for here, honestly. I assume our opponent's Orzhov mid-range, Orzhov control. I guess creatures? Opponent gonna get in with the fish. And Shieldred. Well, I mean, we do have answers for that. I think we just lay down Arms It. I think we take the 2. Instead of giving our opponent some maps with our Get Lost. So we can play Biza first, right? Get our own fishes. Gain some life. That was, and draw a card. That was a pretty good Biza. That was a pretty good Biza. And now we will snipe the Shieldred. All right. Well, we have a chance. We have a chance. So we need to start running cards with our treasure map. So the challenge of our deck against mid-range and control is we just don't have that many creatures that can win the game. Like, a control deck might have, especially when you count sweepers and so forth, they might just have more removal spells than we have. I almost think we just get lost our own fish, because we would have to get lost the virtue anyway, right? So I think if we get lost our fish, we fizzle the virtue, we get the maps. The downside of this is if we let our opponent kill it, eventually they'd spend 7 mana on the virtue. And then we could blow it up, but then they'd get the maps. All right, come on, fish. Come on, fish. All right, another planes. We needed to get big enough to attack at least. I feel like somehow we have to be the aggro in this matchup. All right, no more temporary lockdowns, please. Somehow we need to be the aggro in the matchup, and I don't know how our deck does that. Let's play a treasure map. We can scry. So the goal now is, we might have to use temporary lockdown eventually. We would like to draw all of our possible treasure map cards before we have to temporary lockdown and lose all the treasures and the treasure maps. Hit ya. About it taps. I mean, this isn't going that horribly for not being an aggro deck. Like, we're fighting and clawing. Our hand is incredibly bad. Fountain Port's so good. I thought about playing Fountain Port in this deck, and it still might be right. The reason not to play it is it does mess up playing turn 4 Phyrexian Vindicator. There's a high cost to playing colorless lands in a Vindicator deck. Still might be worth it to be like, sometimes we're gonna have to turn 5 the Vindicator, but the thing is, the goal is to be aggro every time. And against aggro, the difference between turn 4, turn 5 Vindicator is actually pretty big. Opponent has Builder's Talent, gonna make a wall, build a wall, and then eventually put counters on things and reanimate. I think that, let's draw a card. I think that Builder's Talent is actually very underrated. I think the card's actually really good. Ooh, I mean, so Vindicator's gonna die. We have to keep it, right? Like, the only way we win this game is by somehow getting in enough attacks with a Vindicator or a Pisa that our opponent dies. So yes, I fully expect, they did mill 2 go for the throats. Maybe they don't have a removal spell. We just haven't given them a target for removal yet. Like, all we've had is the fish. Well, sack a treasure, draw a card. I mean, we could just double Reformer. We can't get in with the fish anymore. We could kill the wall so we can attack with the fish. That also doesn't seem good. So the other thing about this Builder's Talent that we got to keep in mind, let's just double Reformer. The other thing about this Builder's Talent is the last mode reanimates a non-creature, non-land. Like that virtue that we were so kind to put in our opponent's graveyard by killing our own fish. That is a good, like, if our opponent wants to, they could just get a virtue this turn by leveling up the talent. If they do, that's kind of bad for us because we do not have an answer for it. Although there's not a lot of creatures in the graveyard yet, so I don't know. Immediate, wow, okay, just getting no witnesses. Yeah, that's not good. And a second Builder's Talent. Okay, and opponent. Well, let's scry and flip. I think we just got to keep it. It's so bad because I know it's going to die, but we don't have a choice. We need to get a little lucky, right? We need one of these Vindicators to stick and our opponent not have removal. Hitting an answer to a Builder's Talent that's not... Ooh, okay, Get Lost is actually kind of huge. So now if our opponent goes level up Builder's Talent, we can just kill it in response and kind of make our opponent skip their turn. And this gives us at least the chance to draw like 3 more cards before we have to temporary lockdown. Tell us you can't kill it. Another go for the throat. Yep. Yeah. Sure, opponent. All right, here they go. Trying to reanimate. Well, I think we need to tell that Builder's Talent to get lost. Cannot let them have that virtue. That would be very bad. Our opponent does get a map. Ooh, they're just going to level up. Okay. Well, we're definitely going to have to temporary lockdown this turn. Lay down arms. Well, let's sack a treasure. Draw a card. This kind of worked. We managed to pretty much get all the value out of the treasure maps. Okay. I mean, maybe there's hope. Like, we still have 2 more good creatures. Our opponent has essentially nothing. 1, 2, 3. We have more cards. A lot of our cards are bad in the matchup, but we do have more cards than our opponent. Temporary lockdown. Actually, this is a really bad temporary lockdown matchup, but sniping the Builder's Talent's kind of big, and it gets rid of the maps. And here's a Vindicator. If our opponent could just not draw removal for like a couple of turns, please, opponent, land 2 cards in hand. That card is probably just unbeatable for us. We did not build our deck to beat Kaya. That's not just removal, that is the worst possible removal for us. Biza. Not even a good Biza, but get the bota down. Gain some life. Yeah, this Kaya is going to be the death of us. Oh god, opponent has so much removal. Yeah, this is what I was saying about how a control deck, we just don't have enough threats to really keep up with the removal. Like, our opponent has just... Oh, and a Lily. Oh, all right. Yeah, this is gonna be one of those games where people are like, "Oh, you're scooping early," but this game is over. Like, we know our deck list, we know what's in it, and what we have that can interact with what our opponent has, and the answer is nothing. There's no way that we can get back in this game. It is. I know we're at whatever 16, but there's no chance. Like, anything we play just gets killed by the Planeswalkers. Yeah. Not a red deck. Our opponent found the secret to beating our secret fog deck, which is don't play red. Come on, red deck. Come on, red deck. This hand looks good. Come on, not control. Not control. Come on, aggro. All right, you. All right, you. Ooh, all right. Golgari, eh? Okay. I think I mentioned this before. My thinking on this deck is we should win very close to 100% Deep Cavern Bat. Well, they probably got to take the Get Lost. We should win almost 100% of the time against aggro. We should lose probably literally 100% of the time against control, or very close to that. Mid-range, I don't know. I feel like mid-range might be close. Yeah, opponent takes the removal spell. Well, let's get down the treasure map. The treasure map does help against mid-range decks. Just having a way to generate some card advantage, some card selection, and like the fogs might not be bad. They're, I mean, not as good as against aggro, but we might be able to interfere with an attack or two. What are we doing? Forest, and we would prefer not to let that pop off. More treasure maps. Huh. Well, play the land. Yeah, I think we're actually just gonna fog here. I think our best bet is fog, so they don't get a Glissa trigger. Untap Biza, gain life, make tokens, maybe draw a card? Probably not draw a card. All right, opponent goes attacking. Well, eerie interference. At least this gives us a bunch of blockers for the Glissa. We just don't want our opponent to start generating card advantage. I do love how it makes the creatures still attack you to just to rub in the fact that they're not dealing any damage. The One Ring is the worst of that because they attack so... Ooh, Innkeeper's Talent. Innkeeper's Talent. That is a little scary. We're gonna have to deal with that at some point because we could just die to the combo. Well, I mean, we're gonna play the Biza. We get fishes in life. This treasure map has done nothing so far. Hopefully it does things eventually. Oh, we really need to find... Oh, all right, opponent, gonna level up. Are we going all the way? We really need to find an answer to this. So what gets rid of it? I guess temporary lockdown, even though that's not the best. Well, let's block. Take 3. Do a little upkeep scrying. Not thrilled, not thrilled. I think we gotta do it though, because the risk of dying is just so high. Might as well get him with a fish. So we get to temporary lock, because if they just have a planeswalker, we just lose with this leveled up. So our opponent, I guess, oh boy. The problem is, if they can kill this Biza, they just Glissa, blow up the temporary lockdown, get everything back. Oh, we get to jump? Okay, we will jump. Yes, please. I mean, we have the get lost. Zenoti Scout. Huh. Okay. Was not expecting that. Maybe this deck is a little aggro. Opponent, Mosswood Red Knight, and passes. More lockdowns. So we got to deal with the Glissa. We could, yeah, let's just get rid of it. I think we just kill the Glissa and then lock down again to get rid of the map so our opponent doesn't get any. We can't let them have that map value. Yeah, I mean, reset the board again. Do they have an, oh, they have a cut down. All right, cut down the Dread Knight. That makes sense. If they have an answer to a temporary lockdown, things become scary. Things become scary. Opponent, Mosswood Dread Knight draws a card. Yeah, it is awkward. Oh, Deep Cavern Bat. We really wanted this treasure map. It is awkward, the temporary lockdown. Oh, wait, they're gonna let us keep the treasure map? Interesting. Maybe that means they don't have removal in hand. If they're sniping the Vindicator. All right, another Xeno Scout. Hits the land. We draw a useless plains. Well, I think we'll hold on to the land just in case. I don't know, it might make them bat or something. Duress 5s us down to 15. Well, let's do a little treasure mapping. Well, lay down arms is fine. I wonder if this means they, do they not have removal? We're gonna try to get our Vindicator, I guess, and hope they don't have removal. The fact that they took the Vindicator instead of the treasure map, I feel like that signals that they don't have a removal spell in hand. They could definitely draw into one, but otherwise I think you just take the treasure map and then kill the Vindicator. Opponent. Yes, okay. Treasure map scry. Yeah, let's go bottom. And yeah, I guess we just pass. We can flip the treasure map. Well, the flooding has begun. Well, let's do a treasure map scry. Vindicators too. Sure. Now I think we can start attacking. I mean, Vindicator, if it lives, is a really good card. It just doesn't live that much in some matchups. Well, all right. Draw a card with Vindicator land. Go. They need to find removal, and they need to find it. Ooh, all right. There's a go for the throw to take down one of the Vindicators and a land. Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh, no. All right. Well, down to 3. Not on my watch is good. Well, let's draw a card. Come on, deck. Come on, deck. Interesting. Well, I'm glad we didn't attack. We wanted to kill the Goldvein Hydra. Instead, I assume they take the Not on My Watch and just try to play through the fog. We're down to 1 extra treasure too, opponent. Well, we didn't have to use the fog. Ooh, Biza. Okay. Well, let's draw a card. Down to 15. I mean, I think our hope is we just kind of tempo them out. Like 3 more Vindicator attacks does end it. We can deal with the Hydra if we have to. Although our opponent's going to get roughly infinite treasures. Oh. All right, that is another Hydra. I think we gotta fog the Hydras. Fog and Hydras. All right, take 0. Well, there goes our fog. Although that is our fog, like, doing work, even in a mid-range matchup. Another treasure map. Well, play the treasure map. Scry with treasure map. Hilariously, we kind of want more fogs. Plains to the bottom. Draw with the treasure cove. And unfortunately, these Hydras have vigilance. If it wasn't for vigilance, we could probably win next turn, right? Because they're going to all out attack, and then we just fog and swing back. But the fact that the Hydras have vigilance makes that a little... Seriously. Hydratron assembled. Well, okay, so these fogs have actually been absurd. Area interference. There still is a chance we just die here, though. I think we need one more fog. We need one more fog. We need one more fog, or we still can just die to trample planes to the bottom. That's not gonna do it. Come on, deck. Come on, deck. One more fog. One more fog. I will also accept a temporary lockdown. You know what? Come to think of it, those Hydras, as big and bad as they are, technically 1 mana value, and opponent scoops it up, and wow, we just Foggle Gary mid-range. Fogging around, trying to never lose to aggro, which is a good place to be in best of 1 standard, because my god, is there a lot of it. This hand seems reasonable. Got a fog, got a lockdown. Please be red. Let's start with a mountain. Let's lead on the mountain. That's all we ask. Opponent, are you there? I like the mouse avatar. That's a good sign, right? If you're playing a mouse avatar, wow, opponent lives up to it. Cavern on mouse. Opponent doesn't want to get countered, I guess. Well, that's fine. Not a mountain, but close enough. Mice is what we want to see. Mice is what we want to see. About it. There's, ooh, not even a mountain. Why are we playing Thran Portal? I feel like Thran Portal will be a thing of the past once we get the new land cycle and Dustmourn. Unless you're intentionally trying to lose life. Like, bats might still play it, but I think right now it's kind of untapped-ish in aggro. How many of you play Arena on your phones? I'm curious. Sometimes when I run into someone... All right, Might of the Meek, draws a card, pumps, sure. Down to 17. When I run into someone who just plays very slowly, like sometimes you play against someone and you can tell they're like not paying attention or intentionally trolling or something by just like roping constantly or like emoting constantly. When I play against someone who just is like playing at a slow but like I guess reasonable pace, I always wonder, are they just playing on their phone? And it's hard to like do everything properly on your phone. I wonder if that might be part of it. Found it. Manifold Mouse. That's a good one. Thankfully, we do have this temporary lockdown, so I think we just take our beats here. It's only 6. Assuming if they cast like a Monstrous Rage or something, that would change things. Otherwise, I think we just let it go and then lockdown. Might of the Meek. Yeah, I don't think that's enough for us to care. We could answer it, but I think we'll take 8 down to 9. Opponent does get to draw, but then we just get to reset, and then we're gonna have a fog for the future. Land, and you know what? I think we actually just fog first. If we fog first, hopefully this encourages our opponent to play more into the lockdown. We might get some pump spells out of their hand because their opponent, they might be thinking, oh, this is our chance. Like, this is our chance to win the game. That's part of the power of, all right, Heartfire Hero. Okay, that's fine. That's another creature out of our opponent's hand. That's part of the power of Fog. Like, against these pump spelly decks, sometimes your opponent just dumps their hands like Monstrous Rages and such, and you just get them. You get them good. Found it. Pumps and pumps. And attacks for what appears to be not quite lethal, but we're still gonna do a little fogging here. We don't want to go to 1. How would you like your damage to be prevented? All right, so we stay at 9. How about one more mouse? Just one more. Can we get a 5 for 1? A 4 for 1's pretty sweet, but a 5 for 1, that would be a very good temporary lockdown. Oh, ooh, another fog. Okay, okay. Let's run it back. Let's run it back. We can get this demonic ruckus too. Oh, we're gonna build the greatest temporary lockdown of all time. About it. All right, gonna cause a ruckus on the Heartfire Hero, of course. I do love how safe this fog makes me feel. Like, just having it in hand against these red decks, like every turn is so stressful. Even with a removal spell, you're like, oh, if they have the pump spell, if they got the fling, double strike, we could just die. But when you have a fog in hand, there's just no, life is great. Life is great. Nothing to fear, nothing to worry about. Life is just always good. Found it. Looks like lethal to me. Just kidding. Eerie interference. Fog them. Fog the mice. And we'll take 0. And now we are going to have to temporary lockdown. Sadly, but truly. Oh, yeah. I mean, Biza and Vindicator would be sweet, but we gotta do the reset first. So let's get rid of a few mice and a little ruckus. Make sure we're not in danger of randomly dying. And pass turn. I think we're in good shape. Man, we do not lose to aggro. Which is good, because if we were, then the whole concept of this deck falls apart. Manifold Mouse. Ooh, with a baby. All right. That's a lot of double strikers. We draw planes. Yeah, I think we just got a Visa here. I wish we had one more mana so we could like Visa plus removal, but even just Visa seems pretty good. Opponent gonna go to combat. I mean, they're not attacking here, right? Double strike trample. Well, we're just gonna, you know what? Let's just put everything in front of this mouse. I don't know. What if they have like triple monstrous rage or something? We just need to not die. We just need to literally not die. And then we can leave up this removal. If we draw land, we can get down the Vindicator. Oh, because we don't have a fog. We're out of fogs. About it. There's no way. There's no way they're killing us through this. Mirror Bane Splitter, sure. I mean, this is kind of fine. If that's all they have, this just lets them kill the Visa, basically. And I guess a fish. Monstrous Rage. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm glad we blocked aggressively because our opponent did have a bunch of pump spells. Down to 8. Let's just play the Reformer. Reformer plus removal is pretty good. We're going to sit on removal anyway, so we might as well get the body down. Ooh. More Manifold Mice. All right. I mean, we're still okay. Would love to draw land, but we can like block something and kill something or exile something. All right, opponent is going to spread the pumping. Everyone gets a taste, just a taste. Opponent. All right, I think attacking with the 1/1 just gains us life. Well, not on my watch, Manifold Mouse. And then block the baby, and we gain 2 thanks to double strike. Ooh, that's pretty good. All right, now we get to get down the Vindicator and still leave back the removal spell. And our opponent, how is our opponent down to not? Oh, it's those portals. I swear we have not damaged our opponent. I believe our opponent's taken 9 damage off Thran portals this game. That is absurd. Opponent has literally spent half their life. Well, 1 short of half their life. Well, okay, now half their life. On Thran portal. Why are we that desperate for good lands? Opponent. Gonna play a Swordmaster with a baby and do some pumping. I don't think we can't lose through the Vindicator, right? We can't. Opponent does some mice shenanigans. Passes. We draw planes. Down to 6. This does set up the win next turn. I mean, with a Vindicator and double removal, I think we should be good. If our opponent goes double strike, we can probably win with Vindicator before we die to normal damage, if that makes sense. Like, our opponent, if they double strike something, block with Vindicator, take the first strike damage, throw it at your face. Opponent, Bane Splitter, takes another damage off their Thran portal. Arguably, our opponent lost to Thran portal this game. I mean, I don't know if they're actually going to beat us anyway. Like, I think with this Vindicator out, eventually we're going to be able to deal a bunch of damage, but those portals really hurt our opponent. Opponent, Manifold Mouse. You gonna pump? Wait, is our opponent are they gonna accidentally kill themselves here? I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter because they're gonna die anyway on the attack. Swings out. Yeah, there's a Swordmaster. Little bit of blocking. You can go there, and you can go there, and I believe this means, so our opponent's taking what? 4 from the Vindicator. So we don't actually win. But our opponent is going to take 4 from the Vindicator. We're going to gain some life. I mean, we could cast removal spells if we needed to. Wait, Monstrous Rage on the one that Vindicator's blocking? Well, now I think our opponent just died. I mean, we're going to win anyway, but yeah. When Monstrous Rage kills your opponent, reminding standard players that there's a fog in the format. We have built a deck that will never lose to aggro, hopefully. In theory, we'll never lose to aggro. In this hand, looks pretty good. Need another land. Ooh, white. Okay, this could be good or bad. If it's white aggro, okay, Warden of the Inner Sky. That's fine. That's fine. Our fogs will be good. If it's like the blue-white control or like a token control deck, that's where life is really bad. Like we kind of just lose. About it. Land. The fog's so good. The fog's been so good. Novice Inspector. Gonna make a clue. And another warden. And can start doing some scrying. I mean, we have a temporary lockdown. And we got a fog. Play the land, pass the turn. Land number 3 is good. Definitely need land number 4 at some point for this Beeson the Vindicator. Cool. Gleeful Demolition. Opponent's got a good start. Opponent's got a good start. Well, thankfully they're not casting a Night Neos. Just gonna do some more scrying. Get in for 4. And wow, frontliner. This is a devastating temporary lockdown. Wow. All right. Yeah, that was a good one. We are back to even. What? Requisition raid to kill the lockdown. Our opponent's prepared. They're prepared for the lockdown. What I bet they're not prepared for, though, I would guess, is the fog, because no one's prepared for the fog. No one even knows it exists. I think we're at 16. I think we can just, I really wish we'd just run a land here, but I think we can Reformer. Yeah, let's get on the Reformer. We can't fog this turn, but I don't think we need to fog this turn. All right, Lightning Helix to Reformer. Well, that's kind of fine. We still gain a bunch of life. Opponent plays their last card. Gonna tap and scry. And then they can draw with their clue. All right, down to 16. Well, not a land, but temporary lockdown is still pretty good. So opponent gets to sack their clue if they want to. Clues you can still sack when they're tapped. Yep. So opponent's gonna draw a card. But problems once again dealt with. Sooner or later we will find the land. Opponent plains and passes. Well, no land, so I guess we just keep on reforming. All right, Resolute Reinforcements, sure. And we're into the Inner Sky. Yeah. Opponent can start scrying. So what does our opponent need? They kept on top. They really need a Knight, right? I think Knight's the big one. Well, let's snipe the Warden. Still not finding a land. Get in, hit you. Opponents are on a lot of Wardens this game. Is it a Knight? It's gotta be a Knight. What else would they leave on top? All right, there's the Knight. Gonna do some refueling. Well, all right, just a Resolute Reinforcements. That's fine. We can deal with this. Opponent just keeps making 1/1s, but the 1/1s, boy, we cannot find a land. We might have to Get Lost the Knight. I don't really want to Get Lost it though, because then they get the maps. Blow up the lockdown and counters on the requisition rates looked kind of insane for our opponent, and they get a clue. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. Attacks. I think we Get Lost the Knight. Well, let's block first. Block a 2/2 and then Get Lost the Knight. So this just gives us the upside that if we draw another temporary lockdown, we get rid of everything. We do drop to 12. The downside is we do give our opponent a couple of maps, although maybe they just crack the clue instead. We'll see. We just really need land number 4. Land number 4 for the Biza would be very helpful. Opponent scries to the bottom and does a little mapping and hits a land. And come on, one more land. Ooh, Himodane's Recruiter. Oh, we got the fog. We got the fog. We got the fog. Let's get rid of the scry engine. Plus, this lets us attack with our Reformer. Opponent's up to 27. I think our opponent probably just Recruiters here, right? And tries to win. And we fog them and then stabilize with Bisa. Man, Eerie Interference is so good. It's so good. I feel like I've been missing out on something in Standard by just never playing Eerie Interference. Opponent cracks the clue. It's been so good. And, all right, there's a Recruiter. Oh no. Oh no, whatever will we do? Here comes a big attack. Opponent's gonna pump, and there's the fog. Opponent's wondering what happened. How did it all go wrong? How did it all go wrong? We will stay at 12. We draw a treasure map, and we will, I mean, I should say we're not like 1,000,000% out of the woods here. I feel like we're in an okay spot. We're back up to 16 thanks to the Biza, but we're not 100% in the clear, especially with all these requisition. Oh! Okay, speaking of requisition raids, opponent grows the team, hits the reformer, attacks with everything. Right. Speaking of cards that seem good, why does no one play requisition raid? That card seems like a bomb. We will, I guess, block and chump and take about 1,000,000 down to 7. We draw another Biza. Wait, are we gonna die to an aggro deck? Is this happening? Get in with a Biza. Missing these land drops has been a problem. I'll play another Biza. Go back up to 11. Pass the turn. Hold, and swings. So we can use our treasures to cast the Get Lost. So block the recruiter. We need to get bodies off the battlefield. Like, we could chump a bunch of stuff with the fish, but then we're just gonna take even more damage next turn. So let's triple block the token, block the recruiter, and then somehow this novice inspector is a 4/5. Let's get rid of the biggest novice inspector. We give our opponent some maps, sadly. We drop to 5. We also got to be aware that we know they have Lightning Helix. Oh my god. So we need to be aware of not getting to 3. Opponent cracks. Double land is good. And, well, now we can play the Vindicator. And maybe stay alive, opponents. Wow, scooping at 22, and that's the power of the fogs. That is the power of the fogs. No losing to aggro. Yes, we love playing aggro. Thank you very much, Wizard. So what do we learn about Eerie Interference and our plan of building a deck that never loses to aggro? Did it work? Is it even worth it? So if we look at our stats, I think the answer is yes. Overall, 15 games with the deck, we won 9 of them for a 60% win rate, which is pretty good. More importantly, if you look at the matchups, it went almost exactly like we expected. We never lost to red aggro. We went 5-0 against red aggro decks, and then we pretty much never lost to any aggro deck. I don't think any of the other matchups that we lost were actually aggro. On the other hand, we are 0% to win against control. If you run into Orzhov control, or Dimir control, or Azorius control, it's not happening. And then mid-range, we actually did better than I thought. We're about 50-50. I still think mid-range over the long term is going to beat us more than we beat them. I think it's not a great matchup, but it turns out that we actually had a shot in the mid-range matchups that we played, and it wasn't as bad as I expected it to be. So I will say, Eerie Interference is kind of the truth. That card was it was so good, and I loved it because no one expects to get fogged in Standard. I don't think anyone even knows this fog exists in Standard, and it's even like a really good fog. Yeah, it's a little too much mana, but the fact that it like stops the fleeing kill on top of stopping all the other combat stuff that's going on actually makes it really good. So I think Eerie Interference, it's a sweet card to keep in mind. If all you care about is beating the aggro decks, and you're willing to take your L's against control and often against mid-range, Eerie Interference is great, and this deck actually gets the job done. And I think it might get even more important once Dustborn drops in a few days, because we're getting that new red ley line that seems incredibly busted in the red decks, and Eerie Interference is just the perfect way to stop your opponent from killing you for a turn. And it's so good when your opponent empties their hands of pump spells to go for lethal, and you're just like, 3 mana, none of your stuff does damage. Sorry you mind twisted yourself by casting all your pump spells. It is one of the best feelings I think that you can have in Standard. So that is Fog and Aggro. That's been our deck for today. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you soon.